Chair, fellow members, and new members, no guests. Now, Nigeria is a huge country, massive. Top end, north, is mostly Muslim, bottom end is mostly Christian. Government has a problem that the president tends to alternate, but not always, so you get a bit of friction. I was asked to go to do 5 states in Nigeria and run some broadcasting workshops for radio producers and people like that. So I went to Lagos, my starting point. I had a case. My case was quite a large case, and it was full of electronics, recording systems, all sorts of stuff. And I came off the baggage carousel and thought, oh dear, how am I going to get through customs with this? Because once they open it, they will realise that they've got me and they're going to have to charge me a massive amount of money to get my case through. And hours sometimes waiting. So I collared a porter and said, how much to get me through there without going through there? And he said, oh, $20. So I gave him $20 and whew, we were away. That saved me an awful lot of trouble. So then I had to go to the headquarters and we decided which of the states I'm supposed to be doing. And the first state was a place called Ekiti, and that was an eye-opener because it was just so poor. When you look at Lagos, it's just money going everywhere, and there are still poor people, but money from the oil goes to certain pockets. I know, when you think about it, Nigeria is really wealthy. Do they have electricity? No. Why? Vested interest in providing generators. So they don't want a main system. Water, same thing. Water tankers, nice little earner, taking the water to various hotels and places. So it really is difficult. You can't have a real country running without all the services, but they haven't. Anyway, Ekiti, first one, great time I had there, wonderful. People were brilliant. We had power, because they had a generator, and I had PowerPoint and we were doing all this stuff, and then we got into going out and recording interviews in all sorts of places, hospitals, etc. And coming back and editing. Now that was real fun because none of them had ever done anything like that on a computer. They'd done Word and some of them had done Excel, but nobody had tried to edit sound. And once you can do it, it's brilliant. You can change things around so people say exactly the opposite of what they originally said. Dead easy doing that. So that was a great start. I moved on up to Kano, which is in the top. That's an Islamic place. And the director of the radio station, the main radio station, came up and said, look, I don't bother about the rules. You're allowed to hug me. Thinking, oh, all right, so I just got off the phone. She said, yeah, they don't like it, but I don't see any problem with you hugging me. Well, you're old, I'm old, there's no risk of a sexual encounter. Right, all right. So we went into their studios, and God, some of the radio stations were appalling. It was just a cassette machine, a CD player, a microphone, and some wires stuck into the wall. You know. So we had a look at those, and I gave them some plans to build proper stations. And then we went out again into the field recording, and it was brilliant. We got this guy on a motorbike. You know, he was a motorbike taxi, and what he used to do, he would be taking people into the hospital, particularly pregnant females in labour, on the back of a motorbike into the hospital. I say that kind of story is great because it tends to be interviews with doctors and nurses. Well, yeah, okay, we've heard a few of those, A guy on a motorbike? No, never heard that one before. Another great story was insecticide treated nets. These are for malaria. So when you have your net, mosquitoes land and die because of the insecticide. So that was a brilliant story. And the radio stations were doing this. They were producing information. They were doing like public service stuff, agriculture, health, all sorts of different, could be brainstorm, all sorts of different types of information for the people. And sometimes even in local languages, because Nigeria tends to have English as its main language, but there are Yorubas and various other tribes, and so they were doing that. They were putting stuff out in their own local language, and that helped women because women had very little access to newspapers. You know, in the country, very few newspapers, and so they relied on radio. Radio was all international, BBC, etc. So that wasn't very good for them. Our local stations, great. So moving around the corner, it's a place called Jigawa. Jigawa. That's the poorest place I've been. That was really, really poor. And we did the same sort of things. And had a great time because they're always such pleasant and fun people to be with. From Jigawa, we headed down to Bentu. Big problem. We weren't allowed to fly all these distances because the Nigerian aircraft were appalling. Counterfeit parts used and all sorts, and were crashing all the time. So we were only allowed to fly an international aircraft. So down we go to Bentu. And in the capital, we had a fantastic time because as we drove towards the capital, there was a stack of trucks and cars. So we stopped and they said, yeah, there's some bandits up ahead and they want to rob us. So we got on a convoy and blasted our way down the road. They started shooting at us. Well, of course we weren't in armoured vehicles, so there was all these pings as the bullets hit. And then we got near the bottom, then this heavy machine gun started up. Nigerian army had arrived. And so they sprayed them with bullets and chased them away from us. So radio is extremely important. It provides information, it provides accurate information, not the propaganda pushed out by the presidents and co. This is information gathered by their own journalists and broadcast after being edited. They even put out an interview in Kano with a mullah saying that women had the right to have their pregnancy paid for by their husbands. If the husband couldn't afford it, father. And that was just unbelievable. The mullah actually said it. They got that out on the radio stations. It was on the air within an hour. So radio is very, very important in the developing world.
Brian,
oh God, brain! I tell you, my brain's
any questions for Brian?
Yeah, I've got one. What's a mullah?
Oh, a mullah, he's the religious leader of Islam.
Oh, right.
He's one of the, they all have mullahs in each of the towns in the mosque.
Right.
When you say that the husband has to pay for the woman's pregnancy, does that mean like going into hospital?
Yeah, the costs of pregnancy, antenatal care, the lot.
Oh, okay.
Because they don't get free healthcare, and so when the woman has to go into hospital, it's got to be paid for, and so the husband should pay, and if he won't, then it's the father's job to pay, and he should get the money back. That's what the mullah said. It must be paid back. So, yeah, it's quite tough.
But what happens if nobody pays? Because then the woman can't go into hospital.
Oh no, she goes into hospital, and if you're in that kind of society, Islamic society particularly, you don't mess with the mullahs.
Right.
That's why it was so important to get it on the air, because the mullah had said it, and that meant it was the way it works.
Yeah. What should happen?
Anybody else? No?
Brian, you mentioned about the water and the electricity. Nigeria is it one of the richest countries in Africa? Is that going to stay the same, or are they going to develop?
No, it's got loads and loads of oil, and the money is going to certain groups and it's not getting down to the people. And people, in fact, are having to tap pipelines to get fuel because they can't afford to buy it. And there's been quite a few explosions where they had sparks and they were cutting it.
So, when did you go?
When was I in Nigeria? 2010.
Right. So very, well, relatively.
Yeah, relatively, yeah.
Relatively.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I talked about Nigeria today was it's not particularly nasty. The current situation in the Congo, DRC, you're not going to believe this. The M23 rebels attacked Goma, which is the capital east. What happened? They released the prisoners from the jail. What did the prisoners do? Rape every female they could get their hands on in the jail, then burnt it down with a minute. Now, that is what it's like in Africa in some parts. That is the capital for rape and murder in the whole of Africa. And I spent too long there, and it was really, really, really bad. But that's what I was told happened this week. Anyway, I didn't do the thing all about that. So.
Thank you.
That's just a little bit. So.
Any more questions?
No,
Should we vote on whether Brian informed the United States?
Yeah.
As always, Brian, you did.
Yeah.
Okay, good.